back to the series of authenticity and inclusivity. I know we have quite a break. Thank you for being with us today, wherever you're from. We have done our 11 weeks based on personality traits and that voices in our head, and we have kind of moved on and talk about how we can manage that voices in our head that's not serving us. And of course, I invite my lovely co-host, which is Lucy, the EQ and leadership coach. I'm going to continue to explore the positive intelligence concept. And of course, a disclaimer, none of us work for positive intelligence, but we are both certified positive intelligence coaches. And here you go, Lucy. Today we're going to continue to talk about our stage power, the Innovate power. And Innovate, as we know, Innovate is about the ability to make changes in something already done, something already established, especially when we want to introduce new ideas, products, or methods. How we can innovate, and that's what we want to talk about. And how does so-called this Innovate power help us to be better in managing our hijacker? Yeah, and there you go. And Lucy?
Thank you, Aries. And yes, I think the Innovate power has multiple applications, just like mentioned. Also, it can help us manage how do we get unhijacked more creatively, but also it can help us not just come up with creative solutions and create some changes that we want, but also it can help manage even interpersonal change and help manage some difficult conversations and find creative solutions there. I think that's one of the applications of the innovation that also can be helpful.
Yes, say something.
Yeah, so if any of you listening have some difficult conversations that you're dealing with or conflict in your workplace or in personal life, then listen out, because you might find some valuable tool here today.
I like that. If you have a difficult conversation, or not just innovation or something established, could be a conversation. I want to know more.
Yeah.
Honestly, we all have conversation every day, but I don't think any one of us talk about how can I innovate my conversation so that I can get my conversation better understood, maybe better in getting them to buy in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And where should we start with this Innovate power?
That's a good one. Maybe we can start what's getting in the way of innovation. So we kind of covered what's innovation good for. Now, what maybe we can look at what's getting in the way of good innovation.
I like that one. What's getting in the way? Okay, so we know I kind of a quick talk about what is innovation, and we did say how good is innovation, but I think generally, humanly speaking, when we talk of idea, it's like, yeah, there's this word, it doesn't make sense, it's stupid, it doesn't, I was like, how realistic is this? We need to be realistic. If not realistic, we just talk and then we're not going to get any solution. So what's the point? It was just waste of time. Let's get on.
So I'm hearing some judge could get in a way of innovation.
Probably jumping to the conclusion, right? I was like,
Yes, could be restless, could be controller. All different saboteurs that can get in the way of innovation. And then what is the cost when they get in the way of innovation? We go with the first solution that comes up that might not be the best solution. Or we don't consider everybody's opinions and insights. So we may miss some important information and angle, which can cost us down the road. I don't know if you want to still do the personality, looking at innovation on different personalities, if that would be
yeah,
helpful.
we should definitely. I was doing a couple of short lunch and learn about the saboteur. I thought that was a good one to kind of go through again. Outside of LinkedIn, and I was going through and kind of revisiting the sessions that we went with the short and talk about actually the saboteur all come from strength and come from a lot from your personality. It's not just about what happened in your childhood, but a lot come from that your personality, and then plus what happened in the childhood, the conditioning, the environment, everything. It kind of compile on and add on. And I thought, well, definitely we want to talk about personality, even though we had a sage power. How easily for each of that personality to kind of tap in this innovate power? That means, especially when they have saboteur. But I'm just wondering, would it be good to start really talk through what each of that saboteur interfere with the innovate power, and then we bring in that personality, or the personality first, then the saboteur? What do you think?
That's a good one. Well, we have more saboteurs, so we have 9 of them, so that might take longer.
Okay, we can do a quick one. Okay, let me do like maybe a couple of a quick one, and then you do in, or maybe you can pause me there and say, yeah, I can think of the about the one of the personality. Okay, let's talk about the avoider. So as the avoider, I think the word's quite obvious. Avoid. So avoider will limit the innovation to avoid the ideas, because if anything, the idea look, oh my God, are you sure? It's a bit unpleasant. It's a bit too challenging. Let's not get there.
Yeah, or I don't want to change. Just keep things the way they are. It's okay. We can survive this. We don't have to change it.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
I get heart attack. Let's stay here. Okay.
So even though the situation is unpleasant or even harmful, it's perceived as a bigger pain, the change actually. So it stops even the innovative ideas of how to get out of the situation.
This word came to my fearlessness to combat your avoider.
Yes. That could be another such power for later.
I don't know, when I'm saying, the moment I say avoider and then I say fearless, in terms of the personality, right, I would think of the D and the I will be probably more innovative. Not necessarily true. What I mean is that because they're generally more proactive, so they'll probably be more open to new idea, because they're kind of the flip opposite of an avoider. The other two, the S and the C, right? The compliant, and the S is really a supportive person. They probably don't want to get into any conflict, whatever. So they probably not. If your innovation idea can lead into more challenging situation and complication without information, they probably say, let's not get there. So I guess it depends what angle they come in. They kind of mix around and can be compiled.
You know what's coming up? Maybe they avoid different things that all of them can avoid, but maybe avoid different things. So the D personality might avoid dealing with emotions of people. Might avoid conversations that are mushy in their words, let's say, or are about feelings. Looks like something is coming up for you.
I thought that was a good point. And I'm just thinking that because we talk about innovation, the thing is, when I was talking about innovation, I was thinking about, we're talking about ideas, concept, whatever. And then you brought in actually innovation. It's not just about an idea. It's actually about a conversation with somebody else.
Yes.
There's quite a big aspect of the innovation. So I think it depends on what aspect of the innovation. That's where these personality come in, how they avoid. If it's more, the D and the C is more task, so they probably okay, but it's person-wise, people-wise, they probably will lean towards the avoider. So vice versa, the I and the S, because they are more people-centric, if your innovation is relating to more towards strictly task-related, they probably will be leaning towards the avoider. Yeah, I'm not sure you guys hear what we are saying. So not sure, just pop a message there and welcome. Maybe to jump to controller. So controller will narrow the scope of idea generation because they don't want to lose control of the narrative. So they need to put boundary. because if they don't want to do that, then you don't have more generation because you need to keep in touch, keep in control. So it can be a distraction to the expansion because I don't know where I'm going. If I don't know where I'm going, it's quite scary, right?
You know what's coming up for me? It's one of the big blockers of change. And that is, or a change in our personal change is when we have a certain identity about ourselves. When we say, I am this type of person and I just am not doing this. Or I'm a morning person, or I am an evening person. And we create these identities for ourselves. And that actually blocks also innovation because we have this focused mindset. Or I'm a person that gets sick easily, could be another statement. So I was encourage anyone who's listening, what kind of I am statements are you using about yourself? Because that can create also your identity in a way. And that can limit your growth, possibly, your opportunities, your innovation of who you are becoming, creating yourself. So, and that could be with a sense of control, because one of the hardest things they say to change is if we are threatened about our sense of identity, that's very hard for us. So these identities that we create for ourselves can be almost like even a prison.
I just put in that statement. I think I really like it. What kind of I am statement are you using? Are you conscious of it? There's a quote by, I think Henry Ford say, if you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can. You can do it.
You're right.
So a lot of time, belief is very subtle and very deep inside us, and we don't think about it. But it's because you believe you can do it, you just go and do it. But if you believe you can't do it, it's like, no, I can't do it. Then you won't do it. Yeah. Shall we continue with the different somebody?
Yeah, let's look at, or let's see what's the time. We can pick a few more and kind of see.
So hyperachiever is achiever, right? So it should be pretty good at innovation. But what happened is when you are hyper, means you go over that line, or you will narrow the scope of idea generation to assisting achievement target. So because you're too focused on achieving, and then if the innovation is kind of off the track, you won't want to continue. It's like, no, we're not getting there, because all you want is there. Your focus is, you're overly focused and targeted. You cannot allow that deviation.
Yeah, so what's coming up, they might miss on some other areas of their life, even if they're so focused on achieving at work. They might spread themselves too thin, or not have enough space, energy, let's say, for innovation in their private life, relationships, maybe, or innovating ideas in what I'm gonna do in my leisure time. And so what ends up happening, because they don't have any new ideas there, they're so focused on work, they actually minimize the leisure time because they don't know what to do with it. So they can become workaholics, because that's what's satisfying for them. That's what's certain in a way, and that they can achieve and feel good in that area. But the downside is their other areas might be struggling. Yeah,
because achiever is very much on achieving and very focused, and they kind of sometimes lost track on the journey. I remember recently had this conversation with a client I thought was very interesting. So she has hyperachiever, and she realized that it's always focusing on the end and forget about that process. So I kind of say that, it's kind of slow down and kind of step back to enjoy the process, because achiever normally don't enjoy the process. They work so hard, they work until they can drop and workaholic. It's all about that outcome. And then when they get the result, they don't even celebrate, and then they really go to the next one. So the process that can be enjoyed become a kind of miserable process. Yeah. And I'm just wondering whether it's a task or people or whatever that is, right? If I put in the 4 personality traits, of course, as a hyperachiever is very closely linked to the D, the dominant, because D is also very driven, and hyperachiever is very driven. And people who are very driven can be very focused on getting the outcome and the result and forget about that process, forget about that, in the process, there's people involvement about, like I said, we like to say the word, right? Sometimes in life to move forward, we need to take a step back. They kind of only think that I need to stand still and move forward and then work hard and just drive through. It's a lot of driving through. So I see a lot of D coming in. And they're just thinking by doing that, I can get my objective. That is innovation. To them, maybe there's innovation. They forget that innovation is probably opening up. And maybe the opening up might be slowing down.
Or innovating the definition of what success is actually. And maybe put one of the success criteria, how much joy does it bring me? How does this thing support my well-being? I recently had one client that she realized, she never put joy as one of the factors when she was making decisions. And so what happens, there was a new opportunity at work for a new project. And she said, yes, this is an international exposure. It's with the right people that can really help me grow in my career. So she took that project on, and now she's realizing she's completely miserable in it because she's stuck with work that she really doesn't want to do, that she doesn't like doing. And at the beginning, she thought, I'm just going to push through because the outcome, that's what matters. But now she's suffering through the process.
Yeah.
So really for future decisions,
especially
have that as a criteria.
The process is, sometimes the process is just as important as the outcome, which I think as a hyperachiever can forget. I think if you look in at the personality traits, the D is probably the one that is very likely to do that because they're very focused on the outcome. I'm not so sure about the I, because I is just about people trying to be rah-rah there. So depends, right? S and C are probably more in the process because they can go into the details and everything. And S is really about being supportive. So it's probably less of that achiever in them, unless they feel that that's something they needed it badly. But it's not so strong as an hyperachiever with an S personality.
I would also say the different, maybe they are still focused on achievement, just the achievement is maybe hidden. It's not the external achievement of like getting the degree, getting the project done, but the achievement could be having great relationships. And they could also sacrifice the process possibly, let's say the S supportive personality, when they're so focused on the success, let's say, of the relationship, and they sacrifice their needs in a way, not putting the process in place. They're so focused on the outcome, but they end up exhausted, burnt out, just to be, let's say, liked or accepted by others when they're hijacked by the saboteur, pleaser. That also
so
is
that's
kind
why
of
I think
damaging.
the S will have that pleaser, but achiever, you don't really see a lot of achiever because achiever is really more outward shown. A lot of the behavior about they want to achieve things, very driven to do something. We probably don't see a lot of that in the S personality.
It's more internal.
More internal. So, but achiever is really external, which we see a lot of D in that. The others maybe a little bit. S is really not so much S. I would see more of avoider or pleaser because it's the one conflicts and they are really very nice, which is why they support a supporter in their personality traits. A lot of that can't come in. We are 20 minutes, nearly 20 minutes past. I think we want to come back to focus more on this I itself that we are saying. As an I is about, focusing on this is the way to do it, about opening up, letting go and generating more ideas. I think it's kind of maybe quantity rather than quality because you just want to generate ideas at the beginning or just allow the conversation to flow. Because when we are in the so-called judgment mode, right? I'm not sure, maybe rephrase another word. When people say something, you start to think about it, it may be quite difficult to start to innovate that conversation.
Absolutely. So we can look at how could we use the innovation in the difficult conversations? Would there be? So what would that, when we step away from now the saboteurs and the personalities, looking at how can we focusing on the innovate power with the difficult conversations? So, and as you've mentioned, one of the things that actually gets in the way is the judgment of innovation. So when we hear somebody that tells us a different opinion than we have, when we completely don't agree with that, we are completely in a judgment mode. And holidays are coming here. So many, family and friends coming over, even the family members that we may not agree always with on certain topics. So what could make these conversations easier? It could be really catching ourselves whenever we are in the judgmental mode and taking, when we are hijacked in a way, when we feel the negative emotions coming up, take a deep breath, have a sip of water, and see if you can pause and actually really listen. So what happens when we judge? We really don't hear the other person. We hear the sounds of what they are saying, but we kind of shut our mind off by the judgments. Would you agree, Aries? How does it?
Totally. I like what you say. We hear the sound. We hear, but we don't hear, kind of thing, right? We can hear them saying something, but we don't really hear what they're saying because we don't agree. Pause, take a sip of water, kind of to come down. And I think the main important thing is, do you notice that you have stopped listening? I think a lot of everything comes from that first of that, the awareness, the notification. Do you notice that you have stopped listening? Because of course, I don't agree how to listen. Yeah, exactly. But this innovation exactly is saying that if you tap into this sage power of innovation, is you can listen, even that you don't agree, and look for that gem in that little part of this whole thing that they say. I'm sure out of that, this loads of things is you can find a little part of it that you agree, and just focus on that, and you can see whether you can expand on that, and then allow that to kind of the cycle and the loop and keep on growing, and you never know. Yeah,
exactly. And what's helpful, what kind of technique that's both we talk about in the positive intelligence as yes and kind of technique, and also it actually comes from the improv. So when somebody does something and now we need to build on that, whatever they say. So in difficult conversations, or even conversations with our family members during the Thanksgiving dinner or holiday dinner, to, instead of judging it, maybe use it as a game. Could be looking at a game where the goal is to find at least 10% about what they said, even when you completely don't agree with them. Find at least 10% about whatever they said that you can relate to or appreciate. And it could be, wow, I see you're really passionate about this. I love your passion. Even when you completely don't agree with their opinion, but you can appreciate, let's say, their passion and commitments to sharing that message, let's say.
Yeah. I remember I shared this with a client about playing and things. If you are, especially when you want to do brainstorming, and the first reaction people have said, oh, it is realistic. How can we do this? People start thinking about the feasibility, jump straight into solution. I say, well, about if we don't think about the solution, then that's where innovation is. Because when we think about solution, we start saying, oh, can this work now? Can this work now? Can this work now? We start to kind of push our idea that it doesn't work within the boundary. I say that, but innovation is that there's no boundary and sky is the limit. And that means that whatever that's being said, instead of focusing on the 90% that doesn't work, let's focus on the 10% that we can agree on. And I always say, everything you don't say, but I like your passion. So how can we do something about it? And then maybe second person say, yeah, passion. So what is it about passion? And then we never know. I just let the kind of idea run. Wow, I think that's where innovation is, right?
Or how to switch the conversation, right? When somebody's talking about, oh, I love your passion. And you know what I'm passionate also about is this. And I love this food. Oh my God, I love cooking. Completely changing topic. So avoiding maybe a conflict situation during a dinner when you really don't want to talk about something. So in a way, it's innovative one of strategies, innovative ways to move the conversation forward. Another with the conflict management, as we talked, is really when we actually find something that we can appreciate, at least the 10%, what happens to the other person on the receiving end of our feedback is, well, they feel that we actually heard them. And when we feel heard, we relax a little bit and we open up. And that's what creates the space for actually a conversation instead of kind of clashing together when neither party is really open to listening, but they just want to make the point to the other person. And that's something difficult when actually to really collaborate or find a solution together when both of them are closed off.
I really like it. Yeah, it's kind of from what the person say, find the part that you agree on. And when you kind of literate, highlight the point, the people will feel that, oh, you hear what I say, and there was this part you agree on. And then when people felt that they are being heard, they are more willing to open up and hear what you have to say, rather than you don't agree, neither do I agree with you. It's like it's a reactive. If you pull a long face at somebody will pull a long face at you. But if you start smiling at a person, the person will also react by smiling. And when we start by showing we listen, we start by agreeing, focusing on the part that we agree and kind of have a connection point, and then you expand on the connection point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it could be applied not just in our personal life, in our conversations, but also in the management world, in a way, leadership. When some team member brings you an idea and you as a leader think it's a completely stupid idea. Now you can say, no, I don't like the idea. Let's go for this one. So what happens when the team member gets this feedback on any idea that they bring? They probably will stop bringing ideas to the table. And they already also might feel like I'm not being valued. My ideas are not valued. So it kind of erodes this trust on the team and innovation on the team. So what would be an innovative way actually to handle that situation? Even when you think it's a completely stupid idea, it's not going to work. So again, you could apply the yes and technique. Find something that you appreciate about this. You know what? I like that this idea, you want to solve this particular challenge. And I am seeing that there are two other aspects that are also important. How could we tweak your solution, your idea, so we address all the three important aspects, right? Rather than saying this is stupid, it's not going to work. I like that your idea addresses that one aspect. And how can we tweak it to also address the other two? So kind of it opens up a conversation rather than closing and shutting it off and the end of innovation and ideas. What comes up for you?
Yeah, I mean, yes,
And
maybe instead of using the word tweets, I would think we say, and we can add on these two ideas. What do you think?
Bring their idea. And I think this could work. How could we combine them? Or like continue the creativity process in a way, the conversation.
It's about showing appreciation and listening, connecting. And I also hear one thing, in the process of this innovation, we build trust. We also do empowerment to our people, rather than say, I shut down, oh, what a good stupid idea. But that actually is not empowerment. Things that I know better, your idea is bad. But it's about trusting them that they can do a good job. It's about encouraging participation. Empowerment.
Engagement.
Yes, empowerment. And ultimately you build that relationship and the trust, because they know my boss hear me. And they don't even think that actually he didn't agree to my 90%, because you only hear, oh, he agreed and he said this. And I really like what he said. And he helped me to expand on the idea. And we work on that expansion. And this is what we develop and explore from the conversation. I think the person who came out with the idea, we're very happy. I came up with this idea, but we expanded to this idea.
Yes, I contributed. So it's completely different feeling. And it actually creates even more commitment, more engagement, and increases performance at the end too, when people are engaged and motivated to actually do their best.
I'm mindful of time. We actually have passed the hour, and I would like to kind of wrap up what we discussed today under the Innovate Power. So if I say wrap up, what would you like to say on what we have discussed so far?
So we discussed how we've highlighted few saboteurs and how they get in the way of innovation. And we also discussed different personalities with innovation, what kind of innovation. We haven't talked about the personality as much, but we touched on it. Mm-hmm. And then we looked at different areas of the application of innovation. It could be brainstorming on the team. It could be also difficult conversations and innovating those, or innovating different areas of our life, whatever the challenge.
I think the important point I want to end with is saying that when the innovation is about opening up, there's an openness, there is humility, not that I know better, but I want to hear. And in what you say, where can I find that just 10% of the goodness that you say and build on that? And for those who have joined us today live, just drop us the questions, any question that you have. And then we will see you again next week. Next week, we're going to talk about, oh my God, navigate power. That's big power.
Oh, nice.
Lots to talk about that one. And until then, we will see you next week, same time. Then.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye.